Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda, and can you tell that one side of my face is done with drugstore products and the other with high-end? Before I spoil it for you, pause this video and comment down below which side you think looks better. Is it side 1 or side 2? So, to spoil it for you, one side of my face is done fully with drugstore products and the other side of my face is done fully with high-end products. And it's actually insane how similar it looks. I'm actually shook. The price difference between these two sides of makeup is absolutely mind-blowing, and it's just proof that you do not need to spend a lot of money to get good makeup. However, I will show you in this video some high-end products just really are worth it, where some products you do not need the high-end version. Some of these drugstore products that these brands are coming out with are just absolutely incredible. So hopefully this video helps you to make educated decisions when buying makeup on where to splurge and where to just save your money. But we're gonna get all into that shortly. If you have not already, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really means a lot to me and helps me out more than you know. But yeah, let's get right into the video. All right, so starting off on the drugstore side, I'm gonna use one of my favorite skin tints from the drugstore. This is the Maybelline Superstay 24-Hour Skin Tint, and I use the shade 110. I honestly don't love this applicator. It's okay, but I just find it a little messy. All right, so I'm gonna use about that much, and then I'm gonna blend it in using my Hourglass foundation brush, and I'm just going to press that into the skin. This is actually a pretty nice skin tint from the drugstore in my opinion. It gives really good coverage for a skin tint, but it keeps your skin looking like skin. And I would say this is a pretty good shade match for me, actually. It looks pretty good. My skin is a little bit dry today. It's ever so slightly clinging to some of those dry patches, but really not bad at all. I think once we finish the rest of the makeup, it's going to blend in really nicely, but just something to mention, my skin is a little bit dry. On the high-end side, I'm using the Makeup Forever HD Skin Hydro Glow Foundation. I'm actually mixing two shades together to create my perfect shade match. This is the shade 1N00 and this is the shade 1N06. This one's a little bit light and this one's a little dark, so mixed together, they make the perfect shade for me. And I'm just applying that with a Fenty foundation brush and applying a nice light, even layer. All right, so here's the high-end side, and here's the drugstore side. Honestly, looking at it in the mirror, they're so similar. It's actually crazy. I think this side, the high-end side, is a little bit more friendlier to my dry skin at the moment, ever so slightly. And it's got a little bit more like natural looking luminosity to it, whereas this side looks a little bit more like foundation-y, but they both look really good. They look very similar. I'm just being really nitpicky right now. This looks great so far. So I'm actually gonna skip cream bronzer in this tutorial. I've been really loving just going in with powder bronzer at the end of the makeup look instead of using creams. I know, it's kind of weird, but I also didn't have a cream bronzer from the drugstore that I really felt like was just as good as any of my other high-end bronzers, so let me know if you know a good cream bronzer from the drugstore. I'm gonna go right in with cream blush though, and for cream blush, I'm using the e.l.f. Camo Liquid Blush in the shade Peach Perfect. And I love this cream blush. I think it applies beautifully, blends out beautifully, and I also think the shade is really beautiful, especially if you have fair skin like me. This is a beautiful, very natural looking blush. I just think that's such a good color for me. I love a pale peachy blush. The only thing is, this blush is quite matte, which I don't usually reach for matte cream blushes, but I do really like this one, and it's only $10. Whereas my next blush that I'm going to be using is $35, which is quite a bit more, and it just so happens to be one of my favorite blushes. This is the Say Do blush in the shade Rosy. And I actually have the mini version here. For some reason, their new formula of this blush is so much lighter than their original. The original is definitely more red and deep. I'm not sure if mine just oxidized, but this is a lot closer to this shade that I have on now. So let's see just how similar they are. Right away, I can tell this one is a little bit darker than the e.l.f. one, but I think if I just apply a really light amount and blend it out really well, it'll be pretty similar. actually feel like they're pretty close. My one concern is that they are different finishes. So this side here is more of a dewy finish and it's a little bit darker, whereas this side here is a matte finish and it's a little bit lighter. But honestly, they look pretty similar, especially for the price difference, $9 versus $35. If I'm being honest, if I had to pick between the two, my heart is just with the Say Dew blushes. I think they're so good. I love them so much. This side is good. For a affordable cream blush, I think this is a really good blush. But for me, I love the dewy finish of this blush. I just love the way it sits on my skin, and I do really love the shade range. So for that reason, I think the Say Dew blush wins in my books. Moving on to concealer, I have a very strong concealer from the drugstore. This is the Maybelline Superstay Activewear Concealer, and I have sung songs about this concealer. I just think it is so good and so underrated. It lasts all day long. It covers everything it needs to. It's affordable. I really don't know what more you could want. This is one of my all-time favorite concealers. Now for the high-end side, I'm using another one of my favorite concealers. By the way, if you haven't already watched my last video, it's all about my top concealers that do not crease. So if you struggle with your concealer creasing and you want to know which ones I recommend, I will link that video down in the description box. But this concealer made the cut. This is the Say Slip Tint Concealer in the shade 1. This actually really reminds me of the Maybelline concealer that I just used, and I've never used them side by side like this, so I'm really curious to see how similar they look. All right, so those concealers look very similar. They blend very similar. They wear pretty similar, but if I had to pick one, I would actually pick the Maybelline one because it is so affordable and it truly wears so long. I do think it wears a little bit longer than the Say one, so for that reason, my pick is the drugstore version. For reference, the Maybelline concealer is around $19 Canadian, and the Say concealer is $40, so literally double the price, and they're pretty much the same. The Maybelline one actually wears a little bit longer, so the choice is obvious. So I'm gonna let that base sort of sink into my skin. I'm gonna leave it alone for a while. I'm gonna move on to eyes. So I recently got this palette from the drugstore. This is the NYX Ultimate Warm Neutrals Shadow Palette, and this is just a really gorgeous combination of neutral mattes and shimmers. I think this is really pretty. I've never used this before, but I'm really excited to test it. But something that stood out to me when I looked at this palette was I thought some of the shades looked really familiar. I'm going to be putting it up against the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes Neutrals palette, and I know they don't look that similar side by side like this, but I'm just going to swatch a couple of the shades next to each other and show you what I mean. Hopefully you guys can see these swatches okay. The Makeup by Mario ones are on this side, and then swatched next to them are the NYX ones that I thought were pretty close, and they're not exact dupes, but some of them are really similar. Like honestly, these two up here are really similar. These two on the bottom here are really similar as well. I don't know how identical they're gonna look on the eyes, but I'm excited to put these against each other because the NYX one is $30 and the Makeup by Mario one is $70. So this palette is less than half price and it also comes with some pretty shimmers, but I just swatched the mattes and the mattes are feeling really similar. The colors are a little bit different. In fact, the NYX shadows feel a little bit creamier to the touch, which isn't necessarily a good or bad thing, but we'll see how they blend on the eyes. I'm going to start with the NYX side. I'm going to take the shade right here, which looks like it'll be my perfect transition shade. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply that in my crease using windshield wiper motions. I'm going to go in with this shade from the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette, and I know these shades are a little bit cooler than the NYX palette, but when I actually put the NYX palette and the warm Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette side by side, it was just way too warm. So I actually think this NYX palette is going to be more of a dupe for the neutral Mario palette than the warm one. And I'm just using those same colors and dragging them on my lower lash line as well, just to bring some definition to the eyes. Now to add a little bit of definition on the outer corners, I'm going to pick up this shade right here. I'm just going to pat that on my outer corner, really defining the outer V area of my eye and then blending it out with a clean blending brush. I'm also dragging that shade down to my lower lash line slightly. So far these NYX shadows are blending like butter. And now I'm just going to go in with this shade here for the Makeup by Mario side, and same thing on both eyes. And then for the lid shade, I'm using the lightest matte shade in this NYX palette and just stamping that all over my lid. And of course, same thing on this side, just picking up the lightest Makeup by Mario shade and applying it the exact same way. Okay, so far, not identical, but not really distinguishable apart from one another. I think the only way someone would know is if I told them that I was wearing two different eyeshadow palettes, but it honestly looks pretty similar in person. If anything, I think I prefer the NYX side actually. The shadows just blended like butter, which is saying a lot because I love the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette, but something about the way these applied, it was just so easy. Now I'm going in with liner and I'm using liquid liner, which is something I very rarely do. I usually use eyeshadow, but today I'm going in with the Maybelline Tattoo Studio Liquid Ink Liner in the shade Black. And I'm just gonna do a little baby wing. Keep it simple. All right, so this is the Maybelline liner, and now I'm going in with my high-end liner, which is this Urban Decay liquid liner. This is their 24/7 inks in the shade Black. And I'm just gonna do the same thing on the other eye. All right, so both eyes are done. They're definitely sisters, not twins. I actually think I prefer the application style of the Maybelline one a little bit better. It was just a little bit easier to apply, but overall they look really similar. Now for mascara, I'm actually rediscovering an old favorite of mine. This is the Maybelline The Falsies Volume Express. This mascara was my favorite mascara for years. I have no idea why I stopped using it. I think just because I have so many mascaras in rotation, but I just got this in PR and I am so excited to use it again. I'm just gonna give my eyes a very even coat of this mascara. I love that this has a curved wand. You guys know I love a curved brush. On the high-end side, I'm applying the Tower 28 Make Waves Mascara. This is a brand new bottle, so hopefully it applies okay. This is one of my favorite mascaras of all time as well. It's very similar to the Falsies mascara, I think. The wand is still a curved wand, but the brushes are silicone brushes, which I actually prefer, I think. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can tell, maybe I'll zoom you in a little bit, but this eye to me is just 100% better than this eye. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because there's some newly opened mascara stuff going on, but I don't really know for sure. This side I don't think looks really good, unfortunately. I think part of the reason that is because the liquid liner that I applied got a little bit on my lashes and honestly just kind of messed everything up. That's actually, I forgot, part of the reason why I don't like using those style of liquid liners. Although it was a little bit easier to apply, it always messes up my lashes and just drives me crazy. So I think the Tower 28 mascara is the winner for this one. Moving on to the rest of the face now, I'm going to powder, and I actually just got this from the drugstore and I've heard such great things about it. This is the Essence Brighten Up powder. This is the banana powder, but I actually think it'll work on my fair skin. Typically, banana powders don't really work on me, but this looks pretty good. I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this with a brush. I'm just going to press that underneath my eyes. I don't really want to over powder, so I'm just gonna mainly focus that right here and a little bit around my mouth. And then for the high-end side, I'm going to use my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder in the shade Fair. These just looked really similar. This is my favorite pressed powder, so I thought, why not see if the Essence one is a dupe? I'm just applying it in all those same places. Is it just me, or is the Essence side actually brighter? It looks brighter to me. I think comparing these two side by side, the Essence one is a little bit heavier, not as finely milled as the Charlotte Tilbury, but definitely more brightening, whereas the Charlotte Tilbury one is a little bit more finely milled, less brightening, but more blurring and airbrushing, so it really just depends what you want. Now I'm going to add some warmth to my face. I'm definitely feeling a little bit pale right now, so I'm very excited to try this bronzer from NYX. This is their Buttermelt Bronzer. I'm using the shade Buttercup, which is the lightest shade, and this bronzer looks a little bit pinky to me, and I'm so curious to see how this applies on the face because all of the swatches I saw online, it looks just this beautiful, perfect bronze color, but to me it looks pinky in the pan. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm hallucinating. I'm gonna pick that up on my Rephr brush. This looks very pigmented, okay. Tapping off that excess, I'm going to begin to just place that on my cheekbones here. and on the sides of my forehead as well. Interesting. It doesn't look as pink as it does in the pan. It blended out pretty nicely, like butter. I don't know how I feel about the color yet. What do you think? And now for the other side, I'm using my Give Beauty bronzer and contour duo, except I'm going to use the powder side. I usually use the cream side, but I thought the powder looked pretty similar to the NYX one, so let's put them side by side. Okay, those are very similar. The pigmentation, the way they blend, the color is even pretty similar, honestly. I cannot tell the difference. Now, you guys know how much I love my ColourPop powder blushes. I am going to be using the shade Swirl today, but I really want to see if it's a dupe for the Dior Rosewood. They look pretty similar. When I swatch them, they don't look identical, so I'm curious to see how they look on the cheek because this Dior blush, for some reason, swatches so weird anywhere but the cheek. Like, it looks very patchy on the back of my hand, but on the cheek it looks good. So let's see. Starting off with ColourPop. By the way, the ColourPop blush is $17. The Dior one is $55. Starting off with ColourPop, I already know this is going to be a lot more pigmented than the Dior one, so I'm going to be careful just to remove the excess on the back of my hand before applying it. Even with the tiniest amount of product, these blushes are so pigmented and they apply really evenly. And something else that I love about these, there are so many colors to choose from on the website and they are such a fair price. These blushes would last you a very long time. I'm just going to blend this out a little bit using a clean powder brush just to tone down that pigment a little bit because I already know the Dior one will not be able to keep up in terms of pigment. The Dior one is a lot more sheer. Now picking up that Dior blush shade. They look very similar, not identical. I don't know if you can tell on camera. The Dior side is a little bit more rosy. This side is a little bit more pinky. Oof, but very close. Very, very close. I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference unless I told you, but they are just a little bit different. So close though. Now for lip liner, I'm going in with the NYX Shine Loud Lip Pencil in the shade Sassy. This, swatched on the back of my hand, looked pretty similar to MAC Whirl, which, as you guys know, my all-time favorite lip liner. So I wonder if this is going to be a dupe. This one is a lot more creamier than the MAC one. The MAC one is very dry, so I'm going to put this on and then kind of blend it out to diffuse it a little bit because this is very creamy and pigmented. All right, so that's the NYX. Let's go in with my beloved MAC Whirl Lip Pencil. I really hope it's a dupe because I would love to have a dupe for this just in case they ever discontinue this lip pencil. I would be heartbroken. Okay, similar, a little bit different. I prefer the MAC one. I like a bit of a drier formula personally, and the color, this is a little bit more of like a warm pinky shade versus this side is a little bit more like brownie neutral. So similar, I don't know. Can you guys tell the difference on camera? Let me know. Maybe I'm just being nitpicky, but they do look close. I'm so excited to try this next product. I've been hearing so much about it on social media. This is the NYX Fat Oil Slick Click Shiny Lip Balm. And this is in the shade Going Viral. This looks like such a pretty shade. I've never tried this product before, so I'm really excited to try it on my lips. I'm just applying a thin, even layer to the lips. I don't want to glop it on too much. Okay, so that color looks really pretty. I like the color. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit more shiny, to be honest, but let's try the other side. So this NYX Click Stick is like 15, 16 bucks. And this Hourglass one, this is $50. So let's see if this really is worth that much more money. All right, going in on the other side. By the way, this is in the shade Desire. I thought it was pretty similar to the NYX one. Okay, so the color is similar, not quite identical. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera. The Hourglass side is a little bit more pigmented, I would say. And I hope you can see on camera how much glossier this side is. The Hourglass side is so much more juicy looking and glossy looking. However, I will say for the price difference, if you're looking for a product like this and you're on a budget and you don't want to spend $50 on this product, although it's a beautiful product, I love this lip product from Hourglass. The NYX side is not bad at all. It's comfortable on the lips. For me, it's just lacking a little bit of that juicy, glossy shine that I absolutely love. So I like the Hourglass better. So now for gloss, I actually tried this one the other day and I really liked it. This is the Maybelline Lifter Gloss in the Plumping formula. I haven't tried the original formula, but this one was definitely plumping. This is the shade 005 Peach Fever. This is just a really pretty peachy gloss. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply that right on top of that NYX Click Stick. This is honestly pretty pigmented for a gloss, so I don't want to apply too much. Okay, now the two sides are looking the same amount of glossy. The color is a little different. Definitely this gloss is a bit peachier than that Hourglass stick, but there's that shine and this definitely plumps. You don't feel it right away. It takes a little while to kick in, but I personally like the feeling of a plumping gloss. So I didn't know exactly what product I could use as a dupe for that other gloss. I thought this was kind of similar. This is the Patrick Ta Major Volume Plumping Gloss in the shade 2CCs. This is a little bit more pink and a little bit more sheer, but it's the same kind of idea. It's plumping. I have tried this one before, and for me, the formula is just a little bit sticky on the lips, and I don't really like the smell. It smells kind of like, I don't know, it smells kind of like pine tree or something. I'm just not a huge fan. Okay, so you can see that gloss just gives a beautiful shine and color to the lips. It's a very pretty color. But I don't know if you guys can see on camera. It's sticky. You can see strings of lip gloss just like, ugh, I hate that feeling. Sorry, I really wanted to like these glosses. They look beautiful, but to me, I don't like seeing lines of gloop when I'm talking on my lips, and I really didn't even apply that much gloss. I like to apply a ton of gloss, but with this, you really can't do that. And so unfortunately, the Maybelline gloss takes it 100%. I was quite disappointed in the Patrick Ta Major Volume Plumping glosses. Unfortunately, the formula just was not for me. I do feel the Patrick Ta side kicking in right away with that plump. The Maybelline one still hasn't quite started tingling yet, but I noticed that it started to tingle a little bit later, which I don't really care either way. Going in with setting spray now, I'm using the NYX Dewy Shine Makeup Setting Spray. Apparently this is supposed to make your makeup last 16 hours. That's a bold claim, especially with a dewy setting mist. We'll see about that, but let's go ahead and set this half of our face with that. It's got a little bit of an aggressive mister. I had to hold it pretty far away from my face, but feels nice. Definitely gave my makeup a nice little dewiness that makes my skin look a little bit more lived in, which I like. And now for the other side, I have another Patrick Ta product that I actually really love. This is their Major Glow Dewy Milk Mist. You can see I've used a ton of this. This is a really good dewy setting spray. I think it makes the skin look so beautiful and juicy. So they both give my skin a dewy finish. This one is, I think, around like the $13 range, whereas this one is closer to like the $50 range. So honestly, they're not that different. They're both great, but you can probably get away with buying the NYX and saving a couple dollars. But I mean, this one's glass. It has much better of a mist, I will say. This one's a little aggro. This one is way nicer of a mist, smells nicer, comes in a glass bottle, more luxury. But if you don't care about that, get the NYX. Okay, so that is the completed makeup look with drugstore on this side, high-end on this side. I am kind of shook. I really can't tell the difference that much. There are a few little things, and I'll tell you what stands out to me, but let me know what stands out to you that looks different. This side of my skin definitely looks more skin-like and natural versus this side looks a little bit more high coverage. I think that powder, it's a little bit heavy for me. I'm really picky about powders. It did a great job at brightening, but it does look a little bit heavy to me. But other than that, I really cannot tell much of a difference. The mascara on this eye the drugstore side got a little bit messed up, but honestly, like now that the makeup is complete, it looks very similar. But please let me know what you think down in the comment section, and let me know if you found this helpful to figure out whether or not to purchase drugstore or high-end. If you found this helpful, I can do more dupe videos for you. But yeah, if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.